Greetings, this is the Insomniac GM, and today I want to discuss with you guys that I really don't feel like 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons deserves the hate it gets. Honestly, it created a lot of the framework for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Now, to show that to you guys, there is 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, and then there's Dungeons & Dragons Essentials. Essentials came out later in its lifetime, and it is believed that if it did well enough, that would be 4.5 edition. They're the same game, it's just Essentials has a few things tweaked and fixed, and it's not as crazy on the choices. So I'm going to go through Essentials. And the big reason why is I feel looking at Essentials shows a lot more the direction 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons was going to go. So there's a few different Essentials books, but these are the ones that give you classes. They are the ones that give you the races and all that. So you have Heroes of the Forgotten Kingdom and Heroes of the Forgotten Land. Now, if you notice, so in 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, you had a variety of different classes. You had the Warlord. You had the Shaman. I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head, but you also had the classes in 5th edition, like they were scattered out in different 5th edition books. So like the Barbarian and the Bard and the Monk were all in like a different book. I can't remember if they were in, I think the Monk was in the 3rd Player's Handbook and the Barbarian and the Bard was in the 2nd. I could be wrong. But so when it came to Essentials, they ended up creating these, which have Druid, Paladins, Rangers, Warlocks, Clerics, Fighters, Rogues, and Wizards. So that does not have the Bard or the Barbarian, and it doesn't have the Sorcerer. I believe that's all that's missing. Now, this is a lot more condensed together. Now, another thing I want to point out, the Warlock, if I remember correctly, is the first time in 4th edition we saw it in a core book, an actual player's handbook. Because I believe it was in 3rd edition, but it was like in another supplement. Can't quite remember what, though. I might even be wrong. I might be thinking, yeah, I might be wrong. But another thing, too, is we did have Dragonborns and Drow and Tiefling in 3rd edition. Once again, they were not in the player's handbooks. They were playable races in like other books. Now, in 4th edition, they introduced the Drow, the Dragonborn, and why am I drawing a blank? Tiefling as playable races right in the core book. So that's where you really got to see them become official core races. So there's that. So each one of these books has select races and select classes. I'm just going to go with, I'll go with this one because I think I'm going to go with a fighter just to show that off. So let me put this one under here, and I'm keeping my 3rd edition because I want to show off the character sheet in comparison. So now, when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, the game is a lot more superhero-y, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in the sense of, yes, 3rd edition was kind of superhero-y, but in 4th and 5th edition, it's a lot more in the player's favor compared to 3rd. And like the characters have crazy feats where like you could spin in a circle with a sword, hitting multiple enemies. Like, think of Dynasty Warriors. That's kind of what this reminds me of in a way. I know that's not the best video game to compare this to, but that's just one to give it as an example. Okay, so now let's go in. So one thing you'll notice is you have the fighter. Now, you see the knight and the slayer? Those are the subclasses for the fighter. This is where we started seeing the introduction of subclasses into the game. That was something from 4th edition. Now, another thing I want to show before I get too deep in is the skills. So you have athletics, you have endurance, you have acrobatics, stealth, thievery, arcana, history, religion, dungeoneering, heal, insight, nature, perception, bluff, diplomacy, intimidation, and streetwise. Yes, that's more than 5th edition, but that is a lot shorter in comparison to 3rd edition, which, if you have not played 3rd edition, I'm not even going to read you all of them, but here's all the skills. So, 4th edition was the introduction of lowering the amount of skills and letting players use the skills in different ways as interpreted by the DM. So, now we'll go to fighter real quick, which is on 122. And after that, we'll go into knight, just because it's pretty easy. So, you come to the knight. Now, in 3rd edition and earlier games, you would roll your, at level 1, you would roll a die for your health, and then you'd add your constitution at level 1 and throughout. Now, in 4th edition, they introduced the concept of it's maxed. The first number is always maxed, and you add your constitution. So in here it would be 15 plus con, in in 5th edition it's 10 plus con. However, what is different is that there's a static number for every level after. I mean, that's kind of in 5th edition, but it's optional. So there's that. Now, there's also healing surges. So healing surges was something introduced into 4th edition. Healing surges are pretty much just healing dice. It's a static number to heal yourself, but you gotta spend them to heal, and you can choose how many you spend when you take a short rest. There's also some abilities that can let you use a healing surge, but that's where this idea came from. Now, another thing too is short rest and long rest both became a thing from 4th edition. However, I could be wrong. I've never actually played 4th edition. I struggled to get a game together for this, but I'm getting closer every year. But for short rest, I believe it takes 10 minutes for a short rest. Could be wrong, but I know a long rest is a day. So there's that. Now, another thing I want to talk about actually is in 3rd edition, for your skills and your attack bonus and all that, I shouldn't say skills. For your attack bonus, it was a static number. So if you went barbarian, you got, we'll just use fighter. For a fighter, you would get a +1 on BAB. And then, I could be wrong wrong on this, I don't remember, but your reflex constitution, or reflex fortitude and will save, you would get like +2 on fort, and I think 0 on both. But then like level 2, it changes up where you get different numbers. It was a consistent number, but it wasn't like you had to look on the book to see what the pattern was. Now, 5th edition's change to that was proficiency bonus. You add the proficiency bonus. When your proficiency bonus goes up, everything else goes up. 4th edition introduced that. However, they didn't use proficiency bonus. What they used instead was half your level. So, if you were level 10, you added 5 to your skills, your attack, your spells, all that. So, that's one thing. Now, races. Now, races, I might be mixing this up with Pathfinder, so I'm sorry if I'm getting anyone like crying that I'm getting it wrong. I'm not trying to bother you. Races, if I remember correctly, 4th edition was the first to introduce non-negative stats. It's always a positive and a positive. Because I'm pretty sure 3rd edition has it, you get 2 positives and a negative. And I know older editions, either you didn't get a bonus, you got abilities, or you had a positive and a negative. So that's one thing they introduced. Now, there were feats. That they matter more than they do in 5th edition. But one thing I do want to talk about in 4th edition is the characters seemed a lot more powerful. It was more of a game of hero to superhero. And that's kind of how 5th edition is too. Once again, I'm not trying to knock the game. They all have their own ways of playing that's used to their advantage. But in comparison to 3rd edition, it's like you'd go up against a fighter, and it's like, okay, well, a goblin goes up and just shanks them and they're dead. There's always that possibility. But with 4th edition and 5th edition, they lasted a lot longer. And 4th edition, they'd get like different abilities. That's another thing too, is 4th edition and 5th edition use death saves. There's your other comparison. So, yeah, there's something else I want to talk about. I'm just like making sure there's nothing else. 4th edition does go up to level 30, but that's a whole different beast. Yeah, but one thing I do want to talk about before I forget is the Warlock. I believe it was in a supplement in 3rd edition, but not in an actual player's handbook. And 4th edition was the one to bring that in, and really made it stand into the game. And I feel like if it wasn't for 4th edition, you wouldn't be seeing the Warlock in 5th. I feel 4th edition really doesn't deserve as much hate as it gets, because it really has paved the path for 5th edition. The biggest difference between 4th and 5th edition is 4th edition, your character is a lot more customizable. Your your fighters and that, they will get like abilities where you can spin around and with a sword and hit multiple enemies. Everything does have a recharge rate for your abilities and spells. And you're going to be fighting larger swarms of enemies. Really, that is the big differences. I mean, some of you could be writing in here like, well, 5th edition does this. Yeah, but it's something a lot smaller. But I just wanted to give my take on this. I really don't think it deserves the hate that it gets from everyone. I mean, I understand people have their own editions they play in that. I just wanted to cover that. So, I hope I did this justice. I'm sorry, 4th edition community, that you don't have someone, you don't have me being better at talking about this. Each year, like I said, I'm getting closer to running this game, but with how much hate the system has, I really am struggling to get a game together. So, but I should be able to run one possibly next year. I got a group together, but they want to finish our Pathfinder campaign first, and that's on hiatus right now. But if you've ever played 4th edition in the past, I'd love to hear how your games went. I'd especially love if I heard your homebrew for it, because there's like some house rules I would love to put in my games, but I haven't run it to really see how well it would work. So, well, until next time.